So if the combine matters and it's about metrics and it's about information and it's about your ability to create value for yourself, then the question that we all should be asking, who created value for themselves? Well, a lot of that has to do with who you're being compared against and what were the metrics against those specific guys. Okay, so I bring up the quarterbacks and let me just sit right there for a moment. The top three guys decide not to throw, and the other three guys all did a really nice job. Michael Penix threw the ball well. J.J. McCarthy threw the ball. J.J. McCarthy is going to be a really good NFL quarterback, okay? Those of you that want to be a hater of J.J. McCarthy, that's fine. I'm going to be pretty surprised if he's not drafted in the first 15 picks. I might be surprised if he's not taken in the top 10. That's the type of momentum that he's generating. He plays a selfless brand of football. He's incredibly athletic. The guy spins it. He makes plays. He's a winner, and he doesn't care who gets the credit. Every organization in the NFL is looking for players like that, and in particular at that position. So, JJ did a nice job. Penix, incredible job. And I knew this was going to happen. I've been telling you guys, if you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you'll know that he was my dark horse for a Heisman Trophy before the year, was very, very high on him. And I've been singing his praises in terms of his passing ability, not throwing ability, passing ability. This guy passes the football beautifully, beautifully. He passes the ball with leverage. I've talked about it several times, where he's always increasing the odds for his player and decreasing the odds for the opposition, for the defense. He does it so well, and he does it all the way down the field. And then we see that, and you see a guy that can throw that tight of a spiral, and I loved it. Even Daniel Jeremiah was like, man, this guy throws a tight spiral. It's like, yeah, he does. It's beautiful. It really is. And the way he played and the style he played and what they asked him to do at Washington is going to translate into the NFL. So Penix had a great combine. Bo Nix slayed it in the interviews like I knew he would. This dude is a point guard. He's accurate. He's athletic. He does everything well. I said this to you in my first mock draft. I will say it again. Bo Nix fits with the Denver Broncos perfectly. He and Sean Payton should absolutely be a marriage, and I think that could be a really good marriage for about the next 10 years. So Bo Nix did a nice job for himself. Okay, so those are the quarterbacks. How about the guy that absolutely set the world on fire with a 4.21, the fastest 40 in the history of the combine, Xavier Worthy, the wide receiver from Texas? How about that? That was, one, it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch. I've known that this guy has been fast for a long time, and obviously they used him in that manner at Texas. He can catch the rock. I don't think that he, it's so hard because it's like you break John Ross's, record, if you want to call it that. And immediately it's like, well, it's like John Ross didn't have a great NFL career. Touche. Now, John Ross only was a real effective weapon for Washington one season. Now, it was a great season. I believe he had over 80 catches and over, I think, around 17 touchdowns, I want to say. So he had a great year, didn't play the year before that. It was basically 1 year. Xavier's been really productive for 3 years at Texas. And I think he's a more complete receiver than what John was coming out of Washington. So you may hear those comparisons, but I think that those are manufactured and not appropriate, because Xavier is a guy that can get it done catching the ball down the field. And obviously as a deep threat with that type of a speed, it's incredible and so beneficial, by the way. And again, by the way, guess what? In a deep group of wide receivers, guess what? Xavier Worthy made himself money, maybe millions, by running a 4.21, maybe millions. Think about it that way. So for Xavier Worthy, let's back up for a moment. For Xavier Worthy, running a 4.21 was worth millions of dollars. High reward for the risk of maybe running 4.35, 4.45. It's like, that's fine. It is what it is. It's a deep group, and they're going to evaluate me where they evaluate me. So the reward was much higher than the risk of running for Xavier Worthy. If Marvin Harrison Jr. ran a 4.21, guess how much more money he would make in the NFL? $0. So a 4.21 for Xavier Worthy, probably going to be worth millions, multiple millions of dollars for Worthy. A 4.21 would be worth 0 pennies for Marvin Harrison Jr. because he's already slotted. You see, we kind of know what the first 4 picks are going to be. At least I feel very confident about it. So the reward for Marvin Harrison Jr., even to be the fastest man in the history of the combine, is 0. Why would he run? But let's say he runs in the mid 4.5s, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, is he the best wide receiver? Oh my goodness. So his risk reward profile is substantially different than Xavier Worthy. But Xavier Worthy, show out, man. That was an incredible 4.21. He's breaking ties. He's going to be higher on people's boards because of it, and that's why the combine is important. Blake Corum, I thought, had a great day. He's so smooth when he runs on tape, and that is just going to be solidified, and it's going to be something that they can check the box and say, yep, I saw that on tape. Now I saw it when he was running through the bags in Indianapolis. I think Blake Corum has a chance, at least, to maybe be the first running back taken. He also catches it really well, and I think that's an underrated part of his game. How about Quinyon Mitchell? How about that? Toledo corner. Okay, so we talk about these ties and within position groups. Why is this important to perform? Well, because for these guys, they can increase their value. And Mitchell did that, the corner from Toledo. He runs 4.33. Meanwhile, Terrion Arnold, the corner from Alabama, a lot of people would compare those two. I think that they're a close evaluation on tape, and yet Arnold runs 4.50. Okay, so, well, guess what? Quinyon Mitchell had a great combine, and he probably helped himself. And if you're a team that's potentially looking at a corner, guess what? That's a metric that you will use. If your evaluation is dead even, think of it this way. Dead even. Everything. You loved their interviews. You loved their tape. You loved stylistically everything. You loved everything about it. And you're like, I just can't break the tie. Well, guess what? That broke the tie. That broke the tie because it's tangible. You can see it. Now, that doesn't mean he's automatically going to get drafted ahead of Terrion Arnold, right? Or any other corner, because maybe it's not a tie in that organization's eyes. But if it is, that breaks it. So Mitchell, great numbers, 4.33 in the 40. A couple of defensive guys, Chop Robinson from Penn State. I thought he did an incredible job. Probably played himself, I'd say top 12, 13 picks potentially. Dallas Turner, probably the same. Those two were I think the two best defensive players at the combine. Chop Robinson came in heavier than people thought. So he comes in at about 254. Which is good for him because he's going to play with his hand in the dirt or at least on the edge, on the outside. And then he was fast, man. 4.48 at 254? What? That's crazy. Explosive in the broad jump and the vertical jump. Dallas Turner, same. Absolutely slayed it. Dallas Turner is ready-made to potentially be a player that could compete for Defensive Player of the Year honors. This guy is driven. He jumps 40.5 inches. He broad jumps 10.7. He runs 4.46. He's a machine. You draft him. That guy is a top 10 pick. Dallas Turner is the guy. He is really good. And all of that was solidified with the way that they ran and worked out at the combine. That leaves one other guy that everybody was talking about, Joe Milton. So Joe Milton did your, kind of the classic, like, look at him throw. And I've been going on and on and on about these metrics where you can break ties. And you know what? That certainly is going to be the case for Joe Milton. And having said that, I will say this about quarterback play at any level. I do not care how far you can throw the football. Not at all. I think that is totally irrelevant. Completely irrelevant in terms of playing the position. Almost never happens. First of all, the passes that are thrown with 100% maximum effort, like a fastball from a pitcher in Major League Baseball, like an all-out throw, I don't know, less than 5 times a season. Touch passes, 45% of your throws, minimum. Layering the ball, another 20%. You get what I'm saying? So your ability to throw the ball 80 yards doesn't matter. It just doesn't. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't like Joe Milton. In a lot of ways, I've been waiting for Joe Milton to get to this point since I first saw him when he was a freshman at Michigan. I remember seeing him as a freshman at Michigan. And he comes out for warm-ups, and I was like, wow, like this dude can throw the ball. And Steve, who works with me here, Steve, shout out again. Steve and I are covering the game together, and we're both talking. We're like, Combine 2024. That guy is going to kill it at the Combine. We knew it then. He's been built for the Combine ever since then. Now, can he play the position? You have to go to the tape. I don't care what his miles per hour were on the football. I really don't. When you actually break down the way quarterbacks work, you don't throw the football. You pass the football. You pass with touch and leverage. And every single throw that you make as a quarterback, you are making decisions. Do I change speeds? What's the proper trajectory that do I put on this ball? What's the proper touch do I put on this ball? Do I need to throw it on his back shoulder or his front shoulder? Accuracy. You can boil all that down to, is the ball on time and on target? Is the ball on time and on target? Because when it is, now the offense can move efficiently. The best quarterbacks in the National Football League or any level put the ball on time and on target. That's what it's about. None of it matters how far you can throw. It just doesn't. And so I know it's great for social media, and we're going to see it at pro days again, and guys are going to do the whole like spin out and spin and throw it. And it's like, I don't care. I don't care. All these other numbers, Xavier Worthy's 4.21 translates because he can take the top off of the defense. Quinton Mitchell's 4.33 as a corner translates because at some point he's going to get beat and have to turn and sprint as fast as he possibly can. Chop Robinson, when I see him run 4.48 and do what he does in the cone drill and see him dip, that translates into a pass rush. And Dallas Turner's explosiveness and his strength, that translates into football, at least to some degree. But just throwing the ball 80 yards is like, great. So like we can have a Hail Mary from what? Snap it from the 40? I guess. I feel like that was a bit of, yelling at the clouds. So I started with that my opinion of the Combine has evolved, and that I used to be kind of old man yelling at the clouds, and that it's evolved into knowing that it's also made for TV and important in the metrics, and we're breaking ties. And then what did I do? I ended yelling at the clouds. See what you made me do? See what you made me do with the dumb, look how far I can throw the ball. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't whatsoever. I hope Joe Milton gets evaluated based on the way that he played at Tennessee, because his development over his college career from the guy that I saw at Michigan, and quite frankly, could not throw the ball accurately. He could throw it hard, but he was like Nuke LaLoosh out there, And the line, by the way, for those of you that are, I don't know, younger than 30, is he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Go watch Bull Durham. If you haven't seen Bull Durham, shame on you. He was like Nuke LaLoosh early in his career, all right? Ebby Calvin, Nuke LaLoosh. And now he comes back and he grew. And when he transferred to Tennessee, he became a better player. And he was so much better this last year at Tennessee than even when he had to, play spot duty the year prior. So I hope he's evaluated on that, and he doesn't just become kind of the circus of throwing the ball far down the field. You don't want to get lumped in with those guys like that because it just doesn't matter. So again, that's why I hope he gets evaluated on what his game was this last year. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.